It is winter at a monastery high in the mountains. The weather is freezing and the wind is fierce. Outside the monastery, monks are seated, shirtless, in the snow. Covering their torsos are wet cloths. They are seemingly sure to induce hypothermia in the biting cold. However, they do not shiver. Slowly, steam begins rising from the cloths. Not long afterwards, the monks are each surrounded by a ring of melted snow. Although many supposed magic powers in Buddhism seem unrealistic and fantastic, Tumo meditation is one technique that is certainly real and verifiable. In a Harvard study, Tibetan monks practicing Tumo meditation can increase their body temperature by up to 17 degrees Fahrenheit. This is done by knowing, understanding, and controlling inner pathways in our body. Of these pathways, the most important is the Sushumna, defined as very gracious channel, or the silver cord. The Sushumna is an energy pathway reaching from the base of the spine to the head, following the spinal cord on the way up. By examining the Sushumna and its role in Eastern cultures, one can gain insight into phenomena associated with yogic practices and Eastern health, and how it can be applied to alternative medicine today. Two systems are prevalent in the Indian view of the subtle body: the nadis and the chakras. A nadi is an invisible channel in the body where subtle energy, called prana in Indian tradition, flows through. The word nadi comes from nad, Sanskrit for stream. According to traditional Indian medicine, there are 72,000 nadis in the human body. Of these nadis, 14 are deemed principal, and special attention is given to the relationship shared between the Sushumna, one of the principal nadis, and the Ida and Pingala. The Ida nadi runs down the left side of the spine, up from the left nostril, and is associated with the moon, passiveness, and feminine aspects of the body, while the Pingala runs down the right side of the spine from the right nostril and is associated with the sun, activity, and masculine aspects of the body. These two nadis connect at the base of the spine with the Sushumna, which runs up the center of these two nadis and is neutral in energy. Above the 7 major intersections of the nadis on the human body are spinning vortexes of energy commonly referred to as chakras. Each chakra, which means wheel in Sanskrit, is associated with different functions of the human body and different levels of consciousness. The lowest chakra is the root chakra, or Muladhara chakra. It deals with basic human functions and survival, and is centered at the beginning of the Sushumna, at the base of the spine. The crown chakra, or Sahasrara chakra, is the 7th chakra and deals with connecting to a higher consciousness, and is centered at the top of the head, which is the end of the Sushumna. Mentions of the subtle body and the Sushumna date back to late Hindu texts and reappear throughout various important Indian documents. Attempts to structure the body in Indian religious texts begin appearing in the Upanishads, mentioning these aspects of the body. In Indian art, the Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna are represented by a bindu made of 3 drops of ink. A white dot represents the sun, or the Pingala nadi. A red dot represents the moon, or the Ida nadi. And a mixed color dot represents fire, or the Sushumna. As Buddhism spread eastward, the Tibetan culture combined many of Buddha's teachings with its own traditional practices and practices of yoga. The story of Milarapa, one of the most popular figures in Tibetan tradition, shows how Yoga Tantra was incorporated into Tibetan Buddhism. After using black magic to bring ruin and death to his aunt and uncle's household, Milarapa sought out a Buddhist master to account for the bad karma he had accumulated. After a series of harsh tests, he was accepted as a pupil of Marpa, who had collected many texts from his travels to India. When he learned of his mother's death, Milarapa left Marpa and took an ascetic life in a cave, constantly meditating without sleep and only stopping for eating. After running out of food, he became near death, upon which he read a note from Milarapa explaining the technique of Mahamudra, Great Seal, upon which the knot of the central spinal column along with the psychic energy flows was now cleared at the plexus, or chakra center, below the navel, and the psychic energy current rose up his spine in its fullness. He went on to attract many disciples and became revered throughout Tibetan Buddhism. His name Milarapa means Mila the cloth wearer, which references the fact that, despite the cold temperatures in the mountains of Tibet, Milarapa would only need to wear a simple cloth thanks to the warmth provided by his yoga practices. The Tibetan Tumo meditation comes from a yoga practice called Kundalini awakening. The Kundalini, translated as the tree of life, is an essential element in this practice. It is visualized as a serpent coiled 3.5 times around the root chakra. The Yoga Sutras, written in the 2nd century CE, mention the elements of this technique. From a description by Dandi Swami and Jnaneshwara Bharati, the Kundalini awakening, the precursor to Tumo meditation, is an intense form of meditation that should only be done under the guidance of an experienced teacher. During the day, the Ida and Pingala nadis, the subtle energy channels running to the left and right of the Sushumna, switch off in dominance. The first technique to awaken the Kundalini is to balance the Ida and Pingala. This can be done by alternating airflow between the two nostrils, closing one nostril to let air pass through the other. After repeating this numerous times, the airflow between the nostrils should balance and the Ida and Pingala nadis will be equal in dominance. After this, the Sushumna begins carrying energy up the spine. The masculine and solar Pingala combines its energy with that of the feminine and lunar Ida to create a neutral energy flow in the Sushumna. This can be marked by a feeling of warmth traveling up the spine, or a sense of fearlessness. In this state, the Kundalini can be awoken or uncoiled from the root chakra. This is done through various yoga poses, certain breathing techniques, or intense meditation. The effect of the Kundalini rising is much more intense than the experience of energy traveling up the Sushumna. These side effects include intense feelings of bliss or confusion, striking sensations of heat or cold, and sensations of colors or mental clarity. After the Kundalini is awoken, it travels up the Sushumna, passing through the chakras on the way. When the Kundalini rises all the way to the crown chakra, the Kundalini is fully awakened. The experience is described as an epiphany or an enlightenment where barriers disappear. According to Swami Bharati, like a flash, there is presented to his consciousness a clear conception, a vision in outline of the meaning and drift of the universe. Perhaps the most interesting aspect about the Indian subtle body is that a very similar system appeared in China before the two societies were connected by the Silk Road. The main theory behind traditional Chinese medicine is the theory of yin and yang. Yin is the female aspect and yang is masculine, which is a direct parallel with the Ida and Pingala nadis from the Indian system. The first references to the yin